You don't go out and buy a life jacket when the boat is already sinking, and you don't buy gold when the economy has already collapsed. Hey, gold has been going up in the first part of 2025, and it's not too late for you to benefit. The company you should contact to help you diversify into physical gold is Birch Gold. This is the company where Debbie and I buy our gold from. Birch Gold specializes in helping you to convert an existing IRA or 401k into a tax-sheltered IRA in physical gold. And hey, it won't cost you a penny out of pocket. Listen to a knowledgeable 5-star review. These people are helpful. They're non-pressure. They know what they're doing. This is what you get with Birch Gold. That's why I've endorsed them for so long. Get your free information kit on gold by texting the word Dinesh to the number 989898. You get useful information, no obligation. Birch Gold has an A+ rating with the Better Business Bureau, countless 5-star reviews. You can trust Birch Gold. So go ahead, text Dinesh to 989898. Let the experts at Birch Gold help you secure your future today with gold. Debbie and I are really tired of looking for good movies to watch. We're tired of destructive, perverse content flooding our screens these days, and this is why I joined the Angel Guild community. I wanted entertainment that was inspiring and uplifting and not something that drags you down. With Angel Guild, I can vote on upcoming films. I can support movies that reflect values I align with. Plus, I get early access to inspiring content. I no longer have Hollywood entertainment pushing its agenda into my home. Angel Studios is leading the charge, creating high-quality, faith-filled films like Sound of Freedom, Cabrini, and Homestead. These movies are powerful, impactful, and a must-see if you haven't already. If you want to make a real difference, where we put our dollar shapes the future of entertainment. Let's support content that amplifies light and protects our kids from harmful influences. Please join me in making a difference today by visiting angel.com/Dinesh. That's angel, angel.com/Dinesh to join the Angel Guild now. Coming up, Debbie and I here for our Friday roundup. We're going to show the true colors of the Democratic Party, which really came out after Trump's speech. We're going to talk about some of the other issues highlighted in that speech, from designating cartels as terrorist organizations, to tariffs on China, Canada, and Mexico, to Trump's solution for halting the wars in Ukraine and the Middle East. Hey, if you're watching on YouTube or Rumble or X, or listening on Apple, Google, or Spotify, please subscribe to my channel. Hit the subscribe or follow, or also the notifications button. This is the Dinesh D'Souza podcast.
America needs this voice. The times are crazy. In a time of confusion, division, and lies, we need a brave voice of reason, understanding, and truth. This is the Dinesh D'Souza podcast.
Debbie and I always look forward to our Friday roundup. And, as the week goes on, we chat about themes, and then when we find something that's interesting, we drop it into the box so that come Friday, we're ready to go with some interesting stuff to talk about. One of the things I wanted to mention is that Brandon, our son-in-law, is out the gate, and because he's on the oversight committee, he now gets to haul these prominent Democrats and leftists in front of the committee and basically cross-examine them. And as it turns out, he's showing quite a facility for doing that, because there's kind of an art to it, I think. And the art is not to allow the other person to run away with the time, which is what these politicians are very skilled at doing. So you have to spring yes or no questions on them, of the nature of, but one of my favorites had to do with the Chicago mayor, Brandon, also named Brandon Johnson, which was, hey, Mayor Johnson, isn't it true that you received, these designer shoes and a Gucci bag and this and that?
Really?
Yeah, and the guy goes, the gifts weren't for me. They were for the city of Chicago. And Brandon's like, do you know who gave you these gifts and why? So, in other words, this became a very interesting window into the way that these politicians recycle money back to themselves. They always pretend it's a gift It was given to the city, not me. Even though I'm the only one who knows where it is, I'm the only one who actually can use the gift. That's okay. I'm only doing it for the city.
Yeah.
Very sneaky. But
Very sneaky.
outing these people and putting them on public parade, a lot of Republicans, I think, they're so clumsy in their questioning that they allow the person they're questioning to run circles around them. And I think Brandon is learning. He's probably been watching people who do it well, and he's doing it well.
Yeah, and he's so young. It's like it's really nice to see because a lot. I mean, any 30-year-old would be intimidated by these guys, right?
Right.
But not Brandon.
No, and I think also it's partly his style because he's never mean-spirited. He's never over the top. When the Chicago mayor goes, the gifts are not to me, to the city of Chicago. And then Brandon goes on, well, who gave the city of Chicago these gold cufflinks? So he goes with the flow, but he's also setting a trap. And you get the idea that he's this wide-eyed kid who's trying to get information.
Yeah.
He's not just asking to make you look bad.
Right. I also like when he would ask questions and he'd go, I take that as a yes. I take that as a no. I take that as, like.
He doesn't put up with obfuscation,
That's
which
right.
is also an effective technique. Yeah. I mean, I got to say that for Trump's address to Congress, it's fun to see both Danielle and Brandon right there. Danielle's taking photos with Robert F. Kennedy Jr. and, mingling with these guys. By the way, getting their contact information into her phones. And then she sits up in the gallery. So she can't sit on the floor, which is only for the members, the senators and the congressmen. But what an opportunity to see the government in full operation.
Where was little Marigold this whole time? In bed,
probably with the babysitter.
Yeah.
Or in bed. Remember, Trump didn't start speaking until 9 p.m. Eastern, which is way past her
bedtime.
Past her bedtime.
Yeah.
So one of the things that Danielle said is that D.C. does have a pretty good kind of apparatus of babysitters, and you can get more help.
Mm-hmm.
In Texas, it's more difficult to achieve the same goal, and their life is now obviously half and half given the new job. But let's turn to Trump's address to the Congress. I've commented on it all week. What was your take, both about Trump first, and then second, the reaction of the Democrats?
Oh my goodness! Talk about poking the bear.
Trump's specialty. What do you call him? You call him the grandmaster of poking.
The grandmaster.
In fact, we use that.
Yeah. I said he's the grandmaster of the bear poker because I think you are too. You love to poke the bear. You do. I don't. I'm a little more gentle, at least now. I used to not be in my other life. No.
I mean, interestingly, after we got married, you kind of cleaned up your image.
I did. I used to kind of unleash on Obama on social media. I would go by the handle Conservative Latina, and I would just go nuts.
Well, it was partly because you had a certain anonymity, right?
Oh, of course. Yes. And nobody really knew who I was. And I did get attacked quite a bit because Conservative Latina just doesn't go. It didn't then. Now people are like, oh, yeah, Latinos are conservative, but not back then.
No.
It was a little bit more,
So it was in your face as a handle.
Exactly. Today, not so much, but it was then in 2009, 2010.
So back to Trump. He goes up there and he delivers, I mean, it was a long speech.
Oh, yes.
And we sat through it. We enjoyed it, but we did notice that he was hitting so many themes and so many different things. I thought it was beautifully interspersed with the anecdote. And by anecdote here, I mean more the personalized example. He wouldn't just talk about, for example, transitioning a kid against their parents' will. There's the mom, and so he would describe how this happened under her nose. She didn't even know about it. So he brought it home with examples that were standing in the room. And I think that was where the Democrats showed their true colors, to use our thumbnail for today's.
For sure.
Their true colors.
Their true colors.
Do you think, because and we both often talk about how subtle and cunning these people are. They normally do not show their true colors. Why do you think they showed their true colors here?
Well, I'm not really sure, but I think it's Trump derangement for sure. And I think that even, in moments when Trump was talking to the victims of like illegals, like the mom of Lake and Riley,
Right.
presenting the I don't know, what is it
Well, he
called?
made a
Wildlife preserve,
yeah.
for Jocelyn,
Right.
her mom. I mean, the Democrats didn't stand up. The little boy was his name is last name is
DJ.
DJ Daniel.
I think so.
Yes.
I mean, he
Lifetime.
couldn't be cuter
Oh my
and more
gosh.
touching, and he was so you could
Oh,
see his eyes open so big.
That's when I started bawling. Okay,
Right.
I started crying, and I noticed you got emotional too, and you never
Well,
do.
I never do. And the other thing is, I just almost laughed out loud when the other guy who wanted to go to West Point,
Uh-huh.
and then Trump said, that's your
Yeah,
dream
yeah.
school, you can go in. And suddenly
then-
DJ turns up behind him to high five him.
That was
And
so
I was like,
cute.
that is downright hilarious.
That was so adorable. And as you know, he has been stricken with cancer, childhood cancer,
Yeah.
brain cancer, for a long time, and it's still terminal. That is so sad. Moments like that would be, what did it cost the Democrats to act like they had a heart?
That's why it's strange, because I mean, I've watched a bunch of these, and usually what happens is that on all the politically radioactive stuff, the Democrats will sit sullen. They'll be like, we don't agree with you on taxes. We don't agree with you on foreign policy. We don't agree with you on Ukraine. But when it comes to, this black kid suffering from cancer or this mother who's lost a child, the Democrats would dutifully stand up and applaud, but they didn't do it this time, not even once.
No.
With the exception of one person. I actually looked her up. I think her name is Liz Mullen. I'm not even sure where she's from. She's the solitary Democrat, the one in red.
Yeah.
And she would stand in the entire sea of Democrats. You could see one person standing up.
Maybe she was in red for a reason.
Maybe. The good point. I see where you're going with it.
I'm just saying.
But in general.
Well, but okay, so listen to this. Representative George Latimer of New York, Democrat, told Axios he believed the outbursts were inappropriate. So he was not a Democrat on board. He goes, when a president, my president, your president is speaking, we don't interrupt. We don't pull those stunts. So kind of remarkable coming from a Democrat, right? And the other, and then a centrist, Representative Jared Golden from Maine, Democrat from Maine. I didn't take that approach myself, so obviously I don't condone it. When asked about the speech and all of that, he goes, if anyone is thinking that it was an effective strategy, they're probably in an echo chamber, he added. My take is that the average American thought the optics were really bad.
So Democrats are coming to realize, but I think some of this is coming out subsequent to the CBS poll and the CNN poll that shows that a significant majority of Americans liked the speech or liked a lot about it.
Mm-hmm.
And I've also been sharing videos on social media of young people who say that this was their final straw with the Democratic Party. They were already disillusioned. They just didn't like the way the party was developing, but they didn't get out until now. They're like these people have shown their true colors. Yeah.
Well, look, and then Senator John Fetterman, Democrat from Pennsylvania, took to X to condemn, and then he quote, sad cavalcade of self-owns and unhinged petulance, right? If it only makes Trump look more presidential and restrained, he wrote on the Democrats' outburst. We're becoming the metaphorical car alarms that nobody pays attention to, and it may be the winning message. I don't think that's the way forward, he added. And then, of course, he stole the, he said DJ Daniel, a 13-year-old boy who survived cancer, and he stole the show Tuesday evening when Trump introduced him to the audience and officially swore him in as member of Secret Service. And so, of course, he goes, not standing for Trump would have been a fine strategy, but you need to separate him from the kid with cancer. So,
I think that I recently saw a statement by Sherrod Brown. Sherrod Brown is from Ohio. He lost to Marino, but he's a centrist Democrat. And basically what he said is that the Democratic Party has become the party of the coastal elites, and it's become the party of big government, and it has completely lost its moorings in the working class.
Yeah.
So part of what he's saying is that the reason the Democratic Party became the majority party in the 20th century was that it was the party of the working man. That was FDR. Even though FDR was an aristocrat, he was a very wealthy governor of New York. He smoked, cigarette, which was on a little cigarette handle that was, 6 inches long. There was nothing working class about FDR, but he was shrewd enough to realize to play to the working class constantly. And in fact, he mobilized the working class against big business.
Mm-hmm.
Now, at that time, there wasn't so much big government because the government hadn't grown so big. In fact, it didn't really get big until the Great Society, until the days of Lyndon Johnson. That's when a lot of big government programs got going.
Mm-hmm.
In FDR, you had Social Security, but even Social Security was really widows and orphans. It wasn't the program that it is today. I don't see a way the Democrats can become the party of the working class again. They despise the working class.
Yeah, I don't know. And I heard that they were that they had found someone, the DNC had found a new leader, very progressive. What are they thinking?
Well, I mean, they have the sort of girly boy David Hogg. He's like the vice president.
No, but this is someone else. So,
yeah.
But I'm thinking they're going farther to the left. Do they not understand that America is not far left? I mean, what is it going to take for them to realize that their policies, the socialism that they've been wanting to spread in America, is just not going to work? People don't want socialism.
I don't think that they believe that. I think that they think, their formula has always been somewhat mathematical and goes back to something that was articulated really a couple of decades ago, which is that, look, the country is becoming more diverse, right? More Hispanics, more blacks, and obviously now more illegals. And so I think the left thinks that since there is a natural disposition for these non-white groups to vote Democratic, which has been the case historically, so they're not wrong to think that. They just keep running the numbers and going, the drift is going to be naturally and inevitably in our direction. This is where I think the Trump phenomenon has really unsettled them, thrown them off their game. And they don't quite know what to make of it.
Yeah, it's true. I mean, it is. And I've always told you that I was like dreaming of the valley going red for so long because I couldn't quite understand why people kept voting for Democrats when the Democrat Party kept getting more and more strange and weird and just super vile. I was like, do you not see that? Now I can understand my grandparents thinking that the Democrats were for the poor. That was what they thought. They truly believed that. And I was like, no, they're not for the poor. They want to keep you poor. That's what they're for.
Well, we know people who are friends of your mom who are very nice people and quite conservative in their own disposition, the way they live their life.
And they're nice.
And they're very nice people. And yet they are still habitual Democratic voters. And do you think it's just for reasons of ancestry? And
I think so. I think they have a buddy system, probably. They have a lot of friends that all, it's like a club.
Right.
And they all, they're like, yeah, let's just support the Democrat. Why not? We've been doing it for 150 years. Why not keep going? I mean, I think that's got to be it, because if they really looked at the platform and what the Democrats stand for today, I believe there's no way they would do it.
I think part of what's happening here is, and I'm thinking here particularly of a prominent family in the Rio Grande Valley that you grew up with. This is a family which had lawyers and judges, and a family very much rooted in the valley. But because the Democratic Party was the only game in town, they go into the Democratic Party. Now, they are not themselves culturally radical. They become a little more radical. One of their kids comes out gay, and then they go to work for Biden, and then they get appointed to government offices. And then they probably discover the freak show that is the Democratic Party at the national level. But they also, by that time, their own power, their own position, their own prestige.
There's no way they would have flipped to Republican.
That's what I mean.
Yeah.
They are in part of this ecosystem, and it's like you have to swim in that current.
Yeah, exactly. So anyway, but the good news, I think, is a lot of people, way more than I would have ever imagined. And it was really nice to see when we went to my 40th class reunion last summer, a lot of fans of yours that were in my class, that I didn't know they were conservative. I didn't know they were Republican. And I was like, wow, that's really cool, and so it was quite funny because it was my reunion and they wanted to take photos with you.
You're like, what am I, chopped liver?
Yeah, exactly. I was like, don't you remember back when I was, never mind. Never mind.
It was actually very fun for me to go, and very eye-opening. Numbers don't lie. The impact that Balance of Nature makes every single day is astounding. You can see the numbers for yourself on their website. Check it out. Go to balanceofnature.com. Well, let me give you a few of those stats concerning Balance of Nature's worldwide success. More than 1,000 success stories reported each month. Wow, hundreds of thousands of customers worldwide, millions of orders delivered each year, and billions, yes, billions of these. These are fruits and veggies in a capsule, fruit and veggie supplements consumed by people who have decided to start living better. Now, there's only one number missing here, and that's you. Do what I did. Add yourself to these numbers. Start taking Balance of Nature's whole food supplements like so many others around the world. And here's another number that might get your attention, 35%. Use my discount code, AMERICA. You get 35% off plus free shipping and a money-back guarantee. Here's the number to call, 800-246-8751. Again, it's 800-246-8751. Or go to balanceofnature.com. When you use discount code AMERICA, you get 35% off plus free shipping. Debbie and I love the MyPillow products, and we're especially excited because MyPillow is having its first ever mega sale. The mega sale is on overstock, on clearance, and also on brand new products. For example, you can save over 50% on this season's flannel sheets. The queen size just $59.98, the king size only $69.98. We use these. We love them. They sell out fast every year. Be sure to order now. You can also save 30% on the brand new My Crosses. These are designed in the likeness of the one Mike Lindell has worn every day for over 20 years. They come in men's and women's styles, and they're made right here in the USA. Get the 2025 six-piece My Towel sets, just $29.98. The initial quantities are low, so get them now. And I don't want to forget to mention the best-selling standard MyPillow is just $14.98. Take advantage of the first ever mega sale. Call 800-876-0227. Again, it's 800-876-0227, or go to mypillow.com and make sure to use the promo code, which is DINESH, Dinesh. And one more thing. You remember Mike Lindell used to offer you free shipping if you paid more than $75. Well, right now it's even better. For a limited time, every order ships free. Let's turn to something else that Trump talked about, which I think very important, and that is not just the seal the border. And apparently Trump is also more concerned with increasing the pace of deportations, but designating the cartels as terrorists. You've been talking about this. You've actually been calling for it.
I've been calling for it for years now.
Right.
I mean, years.
Why is it significant? What does it mean?
Well, it's significant because these people, number one, and I truly believe this, that by itself is going to reduce the number of illegals wanting to come into this country by like a lot. Because I happen to know that a lot of these people coming in from Mexico, I can't speak for Central America, South America, but Mexico, they are scared. They're scared of the cartels. They're scared of living under the thumb of them. They're scared of what they're going to do to their family members. They're gonna receive a suitcase with one of their heads in it. I
Or
mean,
my brother's been kidnapped for
yes.
ransom. We've heard that. We've
Oh,
heard that exact
absolutely.
line.
My daughter has disappeared. I haven't seen her in 10
Right.
years. She's, dead probably. My son's legs are hanging from a bridge. I mean, this is something that they live with, right? So when you do this to the cartels, you reduce that threat by a lot. So right there, the immigration will get better. The
Yeah.
illegal immigration will just resolve itself right there. The other thing is that these cartels are extremely emboldened, and some of them have made their way to America. And
Yeah.
and the selling of the drugs. Now, I do agree to some extent with the president of Mexico saying that we are part of the problem, because there is a huge drug problem in America.
Of course.
We can't say no, there's not. Yes, there is.
Or that we're not partly to blame,
Yeah.
because in any transaction there's a buyer
That's
and a seller,
right.
and they wouldn't be supplying the drugs if there wasn't a demand for them.
Right.
So
So there's that. We
Yeah.
need to address that as well. But these people are vile. They're scary.
they
and
have enormous amounts of money coming from the drugs and
That's
from the
right.
human trafficking. Number two, they have very advanced weaponry. And so I think what we're saying here is that, the cops, local cops in Brownsville or Phoenix, are not going to be adequate by themselves to the threat of the most powerful cartels.
They're
But
not.
guess what? The SEAL teams, the people who took out bin Laden, they are more than a match for the cartels. So if the cartel member has to worry about the SEAL team dropping in on him, that's a whole different level of threat, because the weaponry of the U.S. government, as deployed through the military, is beyond your and my comprehension.
Yeah.
I mean, it is. These people can take you out in the middle of the night
Yeah.
at hundreds of yards away with a big blinding flash of light, and that's the end of you and all your buddies.
I do think that we can use our military, not just the SEALs, in fact, not the SEALs, our regular military, to patrol our border. And by that, I mean from Brownsville all the way to Tijuana, all the
to
way
California,
to
yeah.
California. San Diego,
Yeah, it's
the
a
border.
1,500-mile
Right.
border.
So guard that, and do not allow anyone to come in or go out, as far as cartel members, right?
Right.
I don't think militarily we have to engage with them, because I don't really want a war at our southern border. I mean, that would just not be good.
Well, it wouldn't really be a war,
But-
because we're not fighting the nation of Mexico. You're fighting these transnational cells
Yes.
that you can target and take out.
Yeah.
So yes, I mean, I agree that, and I also agree, by the way, with the president of Mexico, which says, listen, the United States cannot have indiscriminate raids into the Mexican side without working in collab. I think Trump understands all this, so
Yeah.
there are ways to do it. But
Mhm.
I think this is a very positive
I mean,
development.
Troops along with the border patrol, I think that would solve the problem. I really do. I don't even think a wall would be necessary in this case, in this instance. While I do think it should be completed, I think that's a bonus. But I do think that we need to keep those cartels on high alert, that we're not going to put up with it. And that, Mexico shouldn't put up with it either.
I mean, interestingly, Trump did not, as far as I recall, use the name wall in a speech,
Mm-hmm.
in this speech, which used to be his go-to
Build the
word.
wall.
Build a wall, build a wall.
Mhm.
And it may be that Trump has realized that a combination of intercepting techniques, including some more electronic techniques that we have now, the wall is a very old school kind of, let's build a wall, kind of like our grandparents would do around a house. But
Mhm.
these days, you might be able to have an electric fence. You might be able to monitor people in all kinds of ways.
Mhm.
And those tools may actually be more effective.
Yeah.
Looking at the Trump agenda, pretty broad agenda laid out, as we know, over almost 2 hours in his speech, what else stood out at you?
Well, of course, DJ Daniel, I think, stole the show, really. That was the most incredible. But the other thing that I thought was pretty incredible is the fact that he says that we're going to open some manufacturing in America again. Now, you had the economist yesterday, Brian Wesbury. You had him on yesterday, and he said, and I agree with him, it's going to take many years to really see a difference in manufacturing. I mean, because you can't just open up a factory like today and next week have cars, right?
No, I mean, we have, unfortunately, there have been entire towns and communities hollowed out going back to the 1970s. I mean, you and I have been through, let's just look at the physical appearance of Detroit. It's a pale shadow of what it used to be. The homes are dilapidated. Many of them haven't gone up in value since like 1977. Obviously, the complexion, and by complexion here, I mean the workforce, is different than it was then. The jobs have gone away.
And why do you think a city like Detroit, well, besides it being run by Democrats, I guess that answers it.
Well, that's a big part of it. Part of it was that the car companies,
but I'm just saying, why can't, okay, so cars are no longer there, but why can't they bring something else in?
Because of the political structure. They are very anti-entrepreneurship.
Okay.
And so they have confiscatory taxes, they have elaborate regulations. I mean, think about it. If you want to start a business, would you dream of doing it in Detroit? No. It's not even very safe.
Yeah.
So all the factors, high insurance costs, high crime, high taxes, high regulation. When you want permits, the city is going to block you every which way. It's a mess across the board. So these democratic cities have become just rotted. And I think that emphasizes your point. It's not simply a matter of providing of putting the tariff on, because even if you put a tariff on, companies are going to say, I'm going to come to America, but guess what? Why would I go to Detroit? I'm going to go to North Carolina. I'm going to go to some southern state where the governor is going to have a reception, welcome me with open arms, give me special, incentives to come to his state because it's going to create jobs and look good for him. So I think all of this, by the way, is a good thing, because guess what? It shows you that these states are now going to have to compete for business. SoftBank is going to choose where it wants to go. And even in America, as you notice, big tech companies are leaving San Francisco. They're moving to Austin. They're moving to Texas. Some of them are moving to Nashville because they're getting a more receptive economic and political environment.
Yeah. Well, I think it just can't happen fast enough. I want it to happen quickly. I want it to happen before the midterms. I want to see, and really, I was really waiting for him to say, I also, like Brian Wesbury, feel like we need to bring down taxes before we do the other, because people need to notice the difference in their pocketbook immediately.
Yeah, this is something that you and I, we heard Kudlow say this. This is Larry Kudlow, who, by the way, very much, Kudlow and Brian Wesbury are very much on the same wavelength. And Kudlow was making a political point. He's like, look, in the first Trump term, Trump did the tax cut first, and then he pushed tariffs second. In the second term, he's pushing tariffs. Now, he does have making permanent the tax cuts on his agenda, but that's going to have to go through Congress. And so it looks like the tariffs are going to go ahead of the tax cuts. And so what that means is that now tariffs don't, if you put a tariff of 10%, it doesn't mean prices automatically go up 10%, but they do go up because companies are going to pass along at least some of that cost. So the consumer is going to feel it without any other immediate relief. I think this is why Trump in the speech even said something like, it's going to be a little painful. There's going to be a little bumpy along the way.
Yeah.
Now, I do think that it is the mark of a statesman to be able to level with people. And if you say to people, look, our economy is in trouble, I'm going to do some things and it's going to cause you some short-term pain, but if you hang with me, it's better to tell them that than not to say that, and then they feel the pain, and then they go, wait, you didn't tell us.
It's almost like when you're getting a shot.
Exactly.
And they go, it's going to sting a little bit.
Right.
Right? It automatically tells you, okay, they're telling me it's going to sting, so it's going to sting.
Right.
And then it's not as bad. Versus, oh no, it's not going to hurt.
No, exactly. Exactly.
Yeah, I rather kind of know ahead of time. Be honest.
I mean, the classic model here is Winston Churchill, which is, I do not have anything to offer you but blood, sweat, and tears.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, look at that.
Yeah.
So Churchill is basically saying this is the reality of our situation, and this is the only way out. I mean, that is a true statesman. Now, obviously, the situation was different for Britain in World War II, but we're talking about the principle of it. Being able to tell the citizens not everything is rosy, and we're going to have to go through some dark patches before we come out into the sunlight. Reagan, by the way, the same thing.
Yeah.
We had a recession of 1982. Reagan actually took a beating in the midterms. And that's something I hope we don't have here, because Trump doesn't have much of a margin.
No.
We don't want to lose the House.
That's what I'm afraid of. That's why I want to see things happen quickly, so that people are excited and they're like, you know what, my life is better. I think we need to keep these Republicans around. I think we need to have a bigger margin so that they can pass more things. And hopefully this display of utter, just, I don't know how else to call it, but just like, I don't know, disgustingness, will play in the minds of the voters and go, you know what? The Democrats are just really bad. They're really bad people. These politicians, these Democrat politicians, don't have our best interest at heart. They are extremely vile people. They're evil in many cases, and they are extremely one-dimensional. So,
well, they have discovered that if you use the rhetoric of public service,
mm-hmm.
and you purport to be doing things for people verbally. So, for example, the Department of Veterans Affairs is their substitute for veterans. If you have the department and you make it bigger, you're helping veterans. Similarly, the Department of Education is synonymous with education.
Yeah, what has it done for education? As
Nothing.
A former teacher,
but my point is they don't think it should either,
Yeah.
because to them, this is the way that they loot the taxpayer.
Yeah.
And they've set up these elaborate systems, and they've actually, it's almost like they've forgotten the original robbery scheme. It's working so well for them. It's just become part of their lifestyle.
Oh my gosh.
It's like these crime families, and money shows up every month, and they forget you got that money by extorting a guy on Canal Street. They've forgotten all that because it happens automatically for them.
Yeah.
This is what's going on with the Democrats. Some of them are, you can tell they're genuinely outraged because their thievery scheme.
Yeah.
But I thought to myself, maybe they don't even see it as a thievery scheme because it's so normal
ingrained.
for them.
It's so ingrained.
Yeah,
in
they
them.
think of it like this. I graduate from college, and instead of going into business where I've got to come up with new ideas, new products, I'm going to have to work for a boss, there's competition, I could get laid off. Why don't I go into government? And guess what? I'll go in. Theoretically, I'm paid $114,000 a year, but somehow I'll come out of it with like $8 million.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Well, they do.
They do.
And these politicians do that. Now,
not just the politicians, because a lot of people do it by I leave the Defense Department, I go work for Lockheed Martin,
Mm-hmm.
I go on their board. I now get lucrative contracts.
Yeah.
I become a lobbyist. So you don't have to be elected an official.
Not everybody does it for those reasons. I mean, I was a political science major, as
Right.
you know, and I did want to go work for the State Department.
Right.
So I wanted to work for the government.
Right. You were excited by the idea of being a part of foreign policy,
Mm-hmm.
and it was something that captivated you. The whole idea of a world stage, the whole idea of dealing with other countries. Obviously, you had a special interest in Venezuela. So I'm not saying there's no one who has idealistic motives, and there are plenty of people in government who do.
Mm-hmm.
I think that these days, those people are not the majority.
Yeah, that's true. Now, the other thing that really got me was when Trump was talking about the people on Social Security and their ages.
That was fantastic.
I couldn't believe it. And let me ask you this. Why were the dumb women in pink, why were they going liar, not true? Why were they saying that?
Well, they are claiming that this is a glitch in the software rather than actual checks being mailed out to 130,
Can we
140.
prove this?
No, I mean, yes, we can prove it. In other words, I think that this is very easy to check out, okay? Because either a check is going out and being cashed or it's not. This is not a matter of a computer glitch.
What I mean by that is, in order to shut them up, we should have done that first. We should have checked first to make sure that these things were actually being abused.
Well, the way you check is there are two ways to check, right? With all these things, you start off, and this is the Elon Musk, I would call it the first vetting, because Elon Musk and his team do not have the authority to change policies. They are what is called read-only, and read-only means I can go into a department, I can see what's going on, I can read it. I'm not allowed to change it. Right? So they go in there, and so what do? You say, show me the Social Security payout database. You get the database, and you start looking. You go, wait a minute. There's all kinds of people who are in this database who are getting checks. This is not just like the census.
But what I mean is, can someone, maybe not
That's
Elon.
step 2, yes.
Okay, check, John Smith at 22 Smith Road, or whatever, Oak Road, whatever, is receiving Social Security payments, and he's 150 years old.
Right.
Let's go knock on his door to see how he looks. If he looks good, I want what he's having.
Well, you know what
I mean?
What I think should happen. This is very simple, and that is that the Elon Musk trigger should now alert the DOJ, and Pan Bondi should be sending out agents to all these addresses to find out if somebody actually lives there. Was a check, are checks arriving? Because think about it, these checks go out every month. Right. Are these checks arriving in the mailbox?
Certainly.
Who is in fact collecting them? Who is in fact depositing them? And right away you need to have some indictments, some criminal charges, because the Democrats can't argue with that. Once you've got the guy red-handed, then you can see this is not a fiction, this is not some accounting glitch, this is actual corruption. And I think we should be relentlessly, pinning it down. Elon Musk is the first vetting, but there needs to be a second vetting.
Well, I actually thought that he was going to sign that agreement with Zelensky.
We had talked about the possibility of Zelensky just like materializing, or they put him in the back room and he comes bounding out and
goes and
signs the agreement.
Yeah.
I think, the latest I've seen is that Zelensky is a very chameleonic, mercurial character. And what I mean is, he says, I'm ready to sign. No, I don't mean he actually looks like a chameleon. Even though he wears those
looks like
fatigues.
something. I tell you, these memes of him at the Oval Office are hilarious. The one I saw like last couple of days, he had a pacifier.
He's like a little infant.
And he's like an infant. His legs are dangling. Actually, they were dangling.
Yeah.
They were. But
in the meme, he's like kicking wildly.
He's kicking wildly. And anyway, so funny. So every time I think of Zelensky, I think of that. The other thing that I mistakenly thought, I thought Zelensky was a dancer. I thought he was a ballerina. No, it turns out he was a comedian. Although
not even a singer, but a
not
comedian.
even a singer, but a comedian, or a dancer. But he did do a thing of Dancing with the Stars a few years back in 2007.
Yeah.
And he was quite good, actually.
Yeah, it's I'm not entirely against Zelensky. I do think that there's a lot of corruption in Ukraine. A lot of money is being appropriated. And Zelensky, by the way, he probably thinks, listen, there's a lot of money being appropriated on the American side, because he even said, of all this money I've been promised, I've only gotten a fraction of it. So he knows that there are people siphoning it off on the other side. So he probably thinks, well, why don't I siphon some of it off on my side?
Why doesn't Elon look into this?
No, so the audit of Ukraine, I think, has not even begun.
Oh.
And it is going to be as bad as anything. I mean, the audit of the Defense Department generally, you can only imagine the amount of waste there.
Oh, yeah.
And I I used to have a very high opinion of these generals. But number one, leaving aside the fact that they haven't won a war since World War II, even more important, the fact that they are supposed to be the caretakers and supervisors of prudent spending. No, they are bureaucrats and politicians themselves. Angling for more dollars is what they're really good at. Managing the Defense Department, being the custodian of your dollars and mine, they don't care about that at all. So it's a scandal.
It is. It is. And what about, I was looking at Chuck Grassley's report. Do you have it there by any
I do
chance?
have it, yeah.
I want to see that. So I was quite taken aback by the fact that so Grassley reveals Obama-Biden State Department's refusal to exact justice against Iranian terrorists. And when I saw that, I kind of looked a little further into it.
Yeah.
And the report was released, and I thought to myself, I read it, and I thought to myself, now this is to me treason. It's treasonous. Why doesn't this make the news? Why are we allowing for Obama and Biden to have done this?
Well, I mean, the idea, I think, that our own president, or in this case, presidents, would not only be incompetent or corrupt, but the idea that they would somehow be okay with people who want to blow up Americans is almost too difficult for people to comprehend. Right? I don't think people, even Republicans, they always have to look for, well, maybe that wasn't what they intended to do. Maybe they had some other motive. Maybe they were distracted by something else. Maybe Bill Clinton was too worried about the Lewinsky scandal. Maybe, no. I think the horrifying realization is that in some of these cases, they're aware of it.
Oh, not only that.
You don't think Obama was aware of the Taliban commanders that he released and what would happen to them when he let them go?
100%
Right.
he knew. Yeah, so
He knew.
Per a protected whistleblower, okay, the State Department and Obama-Biden administration officials persistently and systematically derailed criminal and national security investigations, creating a shadow amnesty program that protected scores of additional Iranian criminals. FBI offices abandoned dozens of Iran-related investigations, and U.S. attorneys shut down prosecutions after recognizing the State Department and the DOJ obstruction would thwart effective enforcement efforts.
Right. So I interpret this as Obama was in the conflict between Iran and the United States. Obama was on the Iranian side.
Yeah.
Right?
Uh-huh.
There's no other way to see it. And so once you accept that, all of this makes sense. If you don't accept this, you are then forced into a convoluted backward somersault reasoning in which you now have to come up with semi-plausible, well, maybe it was this reason. No, the assumption that makes complete sense of it is just recognize Obama's goal from the beginning: weaken the United States, undermine U.S. interests, take the U.S. down a notch, right? Promote the interests of the third world and the anti-Americans against us. And everything that he did for 8 years is immediate. It's like when we watch these shows and they throw luminol on the ground, it lights up.
Yeah.
Then the crime was committed here in the bathroom, right? There's blood everywhere. That's the thing with Obama. It's the luminol test illuminates.
Sure, but unlike Forensic Files or any of those shows we watch, the criminal is still out.
No,
he hasn't been brought to justice.
No,
I mean, at all.
right.
Because
so that's another way of saying that the reason that these Iranian criminals and these Iranian terrorists is that the real criminal was in the White House.
Not only that, but I blame Obama for a lot of the things that have happened since 2009. So like all of the Hamas, Hezbollah, all those things, I think it's his fault because he emboldened Iran. Iran actually paid for all of these
Iran funded Hamas through Hezbollah, even though initially there was a lot of confusion about all this after 9/11 because there were a lot of people who highlighted the Shia, that would be Hezbollah, the Sunni, that would be Hamas, not recognizing that Islamic radicalism has penetrated both strains of Islam.
Mm-hmm.
And so they find common ground in fighting against, they both hate Israel, the little Satan, they both hate the United States, the great Satan. So even though their tactical operations may be pointed in a different direction,
Yeah.
their goals in this area are
Yeah.
not only similar, they're identical.
And which is another reason why I think Obama and the Democrats hate Trump so much. Because look at the article on Hamas.
Yeah, this is the one about.
So basically,
this is the very recent statement about the hostages.
So Trump says Hamas will be over unless it releases all the hostages, right? So he's kind of playing a little bit of a game of chicken with Hamas. But this is how you have to deal with these animals. I mean, there's no other way to deal with these animals. And
I know there are some conservatives who think that Trump should, stay out of it. He wants to get out of Ukraine. He should get out of the issue with Israel, not be so pro-Israel and anti-Hamas. In this respect. But see, here's, I think, a key point, and that is that in the hostages, there are Americans.
Mm-hmm.
Now, if we think back to the Jimmy Carter days when there were hostages in Iran, think of the level of public attention that was focused on those hostages. But here, the media has kept
silent.
Right. They've complete silence, as if to say that there's no problem sacrificing these Americans. So Trump can go the other way and say, listen, you people don't want to talk about the Americans being held by Hamas. Well, it's my job to get them out. And it's my job, if I can't get them out, and if you killed them, it's my job to avenge them. Mm-hmm. So that's exactly what I'm going to be doing.
Yeah, and I believe him. The other thing that was really, really awesome is, the little clip of the 9 hostages that were released.
You showed that to me.
I showed that,
9, right.
These were Israelis. They were Israeli Jews from Israel, but they were recently released, and they all said, "We are here today because of you."
Right.
Trump.
Yeah. By the way, as far as I know, no mainstream media
covered that. Of course
because
not.
You've got these people overwhelmed with emotion and speaking for themselves. I would not be here. And by here, they don't mean I wouldn't be at the White House. I wouldn't be out of captivity if it wasn't for you, Donald Trump.
Yes.
And so.
Yeah. But it's really funny because Trump goes, "Oh yeah, I've saved a lot of people, but this is just incredible."
Very
kind
Trumpian,
of being very
right?
Trumpian.
He has to.
But it's true. I mean, he has done more for people, for so many people. It's really incredible that they paint him as this, egomaniac, narcissist.
Well, I mean, you told me, and I said this on the podcast in part of my own analysis, but taken from you, where you were saying that a narcissist doesn't behave this way.
No.
Right?
No.
A narcissist doesn't spend time thinking, well,
of other people.
Of other people.
No.
Right? I met the mom. I got to get the guy out of Russia.
Yeah.
And this mother has lost a child. Guess what? I'm going to name a game reserve after the child, because it'll mean a lot to the mother that the child's memory isn't just erased.
Yep. Well, I tell you, before I met Trump, I wasn't really sure what to expect, as you know.
Right.
When we went to the Oval Office
2019
to
the first time.
say thank you for your pardon. I wasn't sure. I told you there's only 2 ways that I'm gonna really like this guy, right? He pardons you is one, and he saves Venezuela from the hellhole that it is. Number 2, right? And also, obviously, by saving Venezuela, he
protects
our
interests.
He protects
U.S.
our
interests. Yeah.
U.S. interests, yes. So that didn't happen. The Venezuela part didn't happen, but the other did. So I was like, I'm gonna see. I'm just gonna see. And I came away just overwhelmed because he is not anything like what the media portrays.
How he's depicted.
No,
right.
At all. And sometimes I think he likes to poke the bear, and he likes to kind of, make people think that. But when you meet him one-to-one, he is the most generous and caring person, and he really truly cares about your family. He really truly cares about what you think. And no narcissist would ever be that way. They just wouldn't.
They don't show Trump walks into a hotel, he shows a particular interest in the guy he's talking to. Tell me about your family.
Yeah.
What about your kid?
Yeah.
And he also recalls, well, didn't you tell me last time he was trying for a scholarship. Did he get
has
that
a really
scholarship?
he has a really good memory. He remembers things. And he's very generous with his money. I mean, he really is.
Right.
I don't know. He really, I think he's going to go. He loves being the favorite president for everybody. You know that. He does like that. And I really do believe that when it's all over with, we're going to look back and he's going to be my favorite president. I really believe that.
Subscribe to the Dinesh D'Souza podcast on Apple, Google, and Spotify, or watch on Rumble, YouTube, and SalemNow.com.